All right. Hey, we welcome Sammy Callejas to the Attack the Rack podcast. Sammy, obviously a good friend of both of ours, but also I got to know Sammy in my time out in Fenville. We became friends. We coached together, and we still keep in touch. Now would be I'm been out of Fenville for a while now, but 20 plus years. So um, we ended up coaching. I think first thing we coached together, Sammy, was some girls basketball down in Fenville. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
down in Fenville. It was probably 2004, 2005 ish. So we're pushing 20 years since we were on the courts, barking out orders.
Yeah, yeah,
And a very challenging time for the Fenville girls
yeah,
basketball team.
yeah. Definitely, we were trying to get them back on track. We had a young group, um, and I know I needed just people, good people around the program, and Sammy wanted to get involved, and it was a fun friendship to kick off.
Right, right. And I just remember there was talent there, but it was young, and a lot of girls got accelerated to some big time moments quick. I mean, they
Yeah,
were they were playing
yeah.
against, what was that Scheffler girl
Oh yeah,
in
yeah,
in Waterville. They went to
yeah.
U of M. I mean, I can remember, when those girls were sophomores, and I'm talking about like Hannah McFarland, Alyssa Farrell, when they were sophomores playing against that girl, and that girl was legit.
She was. She
Division
was.
One.
We gave them. I remember. I don't know what year it was, but I know one of the years we almost beat them over in the old middle school gym.
Right. It was at the middle
We
school,
gave
and I was
we
gonna
gave them
just bring that up. It was at
yeah
the
we
middle
gave them
school. Yeah, and that time Solituck was dominant. They were still the big dog in the
oh yeah
area.
no,
So
they had a lot of good players, and they had a lot of good players going on to play some college ball
right.
during that time. So
So
Kurt, how about your
Well,
introduction to Sammy?
Sammy, I often forget that now obviously we reconnected when I was, came down to Fenville and coached with Ryan as well. Um, I coached the JV boys. I think you were also maybe coaching middle school boys, maybe.
right, right. Yeah, I started off at coaching middle school boys, and then
Yeah.
work with Ryan when the girls, and was doing both.
Yeah, but and obviously we became good friends and still run into each other here every now and again. But I often forget that I actually met you in seventh grade. I think it was
Yeah.
seventh grade. You came for what was it? 1 year you came to Highland
I
Public.
came for like a semester, and I went to East Middle School, and it was relatively new at the time.
Yeah, it was. Or no, that would have been the second full year. Was when
Yeah.
I was in seventh grade, and then you were there and you played on our soccer team.
You're right. And I don't even know. I just wanted to do something at the time. I really wanted to be on the football team, but it was too late. So I played soccer.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, because yeah, I remember that because we had already started the season, which is probably why they wouldn't let you play football. But
Football.
we were desperate for players on the soccer team. We only had 11 guys.
Yeah, I remember. All I remember about that was a lot of running. I didn't realize how much running soccer was. That's what I
Uh,
remember about that. And I
but then
remember,
oh,
I
go ahead.
remember, um, being impressed with the facility. Like coming from Fenville Middle School and then going to a brand new facility like that. I
Yeah.
was impressed.
And then as quick as you came, you were gone.
Yeah, I was gone, man. Had to go
And then
back home.
and then I think I remember like a year or two later playing against you. I think in a 3-on-3 tournament at Saugatuck High School, maybe.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and I was like, where have you been? And then, we reconnected there. And then from there, it
It was
wasn't until our coaching days that we
right.
reconnected again. So I always forget like that we actually went to
Yeah,
school together. And you
30
went to that
years
same soccer.
ago. 30 years ago, I believe Miss Miller's PE class. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, Miss
it was
Miller.
different.
Yeah,
It was different. I remember it being different from Fenville.
yeah.
Just
Um,
just just a tad. I did not know that story. Interesting.
yeah, yeah. I always
Uh,
forget that. Well,
well,
hey,
hey, oh,
oh,
go
sorry.
ahead.
I was gonna say, and then speaking of coaching, I did help out Big Mo with the varsity girls 1 year, and wanted to bring up a story. Owe you an apology. Um, there was a game where, and you were the JV coach, and me and Big Mo were sitting on the bench during the JV game, and the officiating that night surprisingly was not very good. And and it was just so bad. And the official made a call, and for some reason, both Big Mo and I, we just started both dying laughing at the call. Was not premeditated. We both just burst into laughter. And unfortunately, we got a technical foul.
Well, thanks, buddy. You gave me. Thanks for trying to make that right. 30 years,
You know, it's
20
been
years
bothering
later.
me for years.
Thanks. I forgot, but thank you.
Hey, and then speaking of coaching stories, before obviously we're talking about Michigan football today. Before we get into that, you got any good, maybe just one really good Big Mo coaching story?
I'm sure you don't have to think that hard about it. Come on.
Okay, all right. I got one. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of them. But definitely there was a challenging night in Saugatuck. I believe it was a Thursday night game. Coach Mo came in on the bus. He was not happy with
So it was an away game?
vibe. It was an away game at Saugatuck. He wasn't happy with the vibe on the bus, and I don't want to get into details, but just let's put it this way. 90 minutes later, I'm picking him up at Big Curve. He did not ride the bus home with us that night. That was interesting. Me personally, I never seen nothing like it at the time. But I think he sent a message. I don't know. I can't remember how the team responded, but I know there was a message sent that night.
And again, if you've watched the podcast or you have been watching the podcast, I do have a memory issue. Whether it's CTE, we're not 100% sure, but I'm asking this as a real question, Sammy. Go Blue. Did you? Are you the one who picked me up?
Yeah.
Okay.
You called me. I picked you up at Big Curve. I actually surprisingly was shocked. And let's be honest, did you get a ride there? Because that was pretty quick.
Hold on. We I think we're missing a key component to this story, and that is how did Big Mo get from Saugatuck High School all the way to the Big Curve gas station?
On foot.
On foot.
On foot. I bet it's more than 3 miles away. So I'm just curious, did you get a ride there?
The legend can never be I can't share my secrets of speed walking. I will say, so the story goes, it was a tough loss, and nobody was really happy because Saugatuck is a huge rival.
Right.
And I, as I came into the locker room, I was not pleased with a few things, and we'll we can elaborate on the story later on. Maybe have one of those players on, but I was not pleased. So we loaded up pretty quickly, and then I said, I'm not riding that bus home tonight. And Sammy, you rode the bus home, I believe.
Yeah, I rode the bus. An adult had to ride the bus home.
So the timing worked out well, where you could come back and grab me,
right.
and finish off the rest of my traveling home. So probably in my younger days, I was a little eccentric.
Let me ask you this question. Since we're going down memory lane.
Yeah.
Do you remember your first varsity girls basketball game and where it was at?
No.
Okay, your first varsity girls basketball game was at Marcellus, and we lost.
A little bit of travel.
We lost. I remember that was the first game. I was working at Holland Hitch, and I was working third shift, but I made it to the game. I drove separately. But yeah, you lost your first. I mean, no surprise. We were rebuilding that year.
Yeah. We had a nice mixture. We had a good.
Crystal Skinner, I think, scored the most points. It was young. It was a young.
That was her first game as a varsity player.
It was a young team. Like I said, you had pulled her up.
Yeah, with a bunch of freshmen. I think we had
a freshman that year.
Ashley Holcomb, lefty.
Yeah.
Was still trying to learn a different system from a different coaching style. So I don't remember that, but I don't remember what I did yesterday. So
gotcha.
No surprise, I don't remember my first game.
10-4.
Good times though. Good times.
It was good times. It was learning times. A lot of learning. You learn how to manage people and personalities. And you learn how to manage parents, I guess, or try to.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's a balancing act. So a lot of stuff that I learned coaching helped me today in in what I'm doing now as far as like being a leader. Like I'm an entrepreneur. I got to lead. What I've done in the past in manufacturing, I've had to lead, and those skills that I learned of how to manage people, how to read people, how to look at people's strengths and weaknesses really helped me out.
Well, good. Well, it was. I enjoyed every second of it, almost every second, I guess. But enough about that.
Right?
We got you on here because you are
We now.
renowned Michigan fan, hence the name Sammy Go Blue.
Yes,
Which
sir.
still have saved in my phone over 20 years ago. Um,
Wow.
so, what do we think? What are we thinking about this year's team, Sammy?
Well, you know what?
The Michigan Wolverines football
The
team.
Michigan Wolverines this year, I don't know. So this is what we got, and we got a brutal schedule. Um, that's I would say the negative right now.
Three top 10
the,
teams.
yeah, 3 top 10 teams. The positive is, and I guess this is a testament to Jim Harbaugh, is we're built from the inside out. So I always feel like if we're good on the lines and interiors, we have a chance. So the big question mark is the quarterback. I think the defense solid, offensive. We're at the point now where we are kind of like back the the Miamis and the Nebraskas and the USC's where we're not recruiting no more. We're just reloading now. And one area where we're really good at is in an interior lines, and that's what keep you in ball games. Period.
Yep.
You can control the clock on defensive line when you're having a good defensive line. You put pressure, and when you put pressure, people make mistakes. And when you don't have to blitz to put pressure, because you can get that pressure from your interior line.
Yeah.
That's
No,
that's
no,
that's
gives you a chance every night, no matter if
right.
you're young at the QB or
Right.
a little young at the skilled positions
It can
or
equalize,
different
be an
guys.
equalizer
Yeah,
for sure.
definitely. I would agree. I do think that was a positive of, even though it's not always fun to watch, a positive of Harbaugh style is the pound. We're going to run it, we're running it.
We're gonna
Not
control the
super fun
clock.
to watch all the time, but it does keep you in almost every ball game.
It keeps you on in every ball game. The only problem you have is something like TCU game where you got to put up a lot of points, and if you can't, I mean,
Yeah,
luckily we could, and I don't know if we can do that this year, but I know that we're solid at running back and we're solid on the line, and tight ends we're not too shabby, so I feel like we can still um control the clock,
yeah.
control games.
Hey, Sammy, you mentioned a question mark at the quarterback position. Can you talk a little bit more about what we might see from the quarterback position?
Well, what Orgy.
First of all, who have they announced a starter?
No, I not that I've read or seen. Orgy. What's interesting is Sharon Moore, as he hasn't announced a starter yet. So what's interesting is you got a super athletic guy, Jalen Milroe style. Can he throw the ball?
Yeah.
Because we saw this with Joe Milton. We saw a super athletic quarterback, um, hard thrower, couldn't be accurate. So that's going to be the question with Orgy. If he can be accurate, then we know we got something special. The Warren kid and the Tuttle kid, they're game managers. From what I've seen, I haven't watched a lot of them. They're game managers. So, if we want to see the wow factor, we hope that Orgy develops and can, because he's going to be a wow factor. The other two are game managers. We won't go wrong with them, but there may be an X factor with Orgy, especially if he can be accurate.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point because once you put an athlete back there at quarterback, you have a chance through the air and on the ground to make
Right.
things happen, which I think will be fun to watch. Hopefully, he can get the aerial attack under control sooner than later.
Yes, especially with the gauntlet coming. I mean, because we got a gauntlet. Luckily, they're home games, but still, these are top-notch teams. You know, this is what I guess in 30 years. First of all, let's say 30 years ago, who would ever thought USC, Oregon, UCLA, the Big Ten's landscape has changed so much in 30 years. You know, we would never seen that. We wouldn't have thought that, but now it's here, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting to see if we can handle the super conference, a super conference. You know, what's kind of interesting though is this year we have Texas, and that's that's cool that we have Texas coming into town. I'm really excited about that game. No tickets yet. Anybody on this podcast want to donate? I mean, I'm possibly thinking about doing a GoFundMe page for my team right now for a Texas ticket. But either way, Sammy Go Blue wants to invite your guys' podcast to my tailgate. If you guys want to do something there, do a show from a tailgate, a Texas game. I don't know what you guys' schedules are, but I'll make sure it's proper. All right.
All right. Might have to stay under control if we get out that way.
Right. Gotcha.
So you'll be there with a tailgate. You might just not get into the stadium, and then you got TV set up.
I'm tightwad, and I don't know if I want to do 400 yet for Texas. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what's the prices right now, about 400.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, I'm hoping the same theory is gonna go like this. I'm gonna wait the week of and see what I can find on StubHub for a single, and hopefully I get something under $200 or less.
There you go. There you go.
All right. If not, I'm putting in God's hands, and hopefully something happens where the week of somebody has an extra ticket and somebody calls me and says, "Hey, Sammy, Go Blue, what's up?" And then, I'm there for kickoff for sure.
What as we look ahead here a little bit, obviously you talked about probably the strength of right now that Michigan's team is built kind of the inside out. So the interior lines, offensive, defensively. Yeah, you got give me maybe a breakthrough player on one of those sides of the ball. Someone maybe we haven't heard of, or is there a stud down there? I know that was it Graham.
Yeah,
Graham could be a beast defensively.
I mean, I think I read one like NFL projection draft for next year, and I think he's in the top 3.
Wow.
Yeah, I want to say he was number 1, to be honest with you, projected to go next year.
Yeah. The way he played last year, I believe it, because I can't imagine he plays worse.
Right.
And he seems like a worker, so I'm sure he's going to be better prepared this year, or even more prepared.
You know what? I'm not gonna go with the player. I'm gonna go with the group, if that's true. And I want to see what these wide receivers can do, because now we got competition where, as far as like I talked about before, we got West Coast speed coming to the Big Ten, and I want to see. I miss the Braylon Edwards. I miss the big receivers, the big passing games, and I want to see a breakout Braylon Edwards. Cornelius Johnson was good. Roman Wilson's good, but that's not what I grew up with. And I want to see somebody like who's going to come out of that receiving group and be the guy. You know,
do you got a guy in there that might have a breakout year?
Not that we've been so tight end dominant. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see who comes out of that group.
Yeah, no, definitely have missed those 6'2", 6'3" receivers.
Right.
Not super fast, but lanky, and could just go up and find the football. So yeah, no. That'll be interesting to see if they can. It'll be interesting to see if they change a little bit under Sharon. And they maybe throw it a little more.
Right. But he's also the offensive coordinator and said, "I'm going to run it 30 times on you."
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
That's what's
I think that's what appealed to the Harbaugh with him. He's an offensive line coach that has the old Big Ten mentality of, we're going to control the ball, the clock, and you're going to stop us to throw.
Yeah.
You're going to stop our game, and then we'll throw.
If you don't stop us, they will run it 30, 40 times, no doubt.
Right. So yeah, that's
I like it. It's kind of an underrated group there. The wide receivers. It might be interesting to see how they perform and who kind of steps up for them.
Yeah, because size hasn't been other than what Johnson was 6'6", what Nico Collins was, he was 6'4", but we had a lot of small wide receivers. Somebody like Jeremy Gallon, I know he was part of a different era, but Jeremy Gallon, Roy Roundtree, those guys weren't big guys. Even Roman Wilson's not a big guy. Luckily, was fast, and could catch.
Yep.
But no Braylon Edwards, where you had a receiver that was dominant.
Yeah.
Over the top.
Haven't really seen
You
that.
could do a jump ball with them.
You haven't really seen that since the Lloyd Carr era, really.
Really, exactly, and yeah, exactly.
Hey,
So that's what I'd like to see a little bit more of. But the fact that we're one of the best teams that utilize our tight ends and is cool. I think. I think it's not. I mean, maybe that's the wrong word, but it's just interesting how dominant Michigan has been with their tight ends and how they become pretty much kind of a little bit tight end you.
Yeah.
And rushing the ball, what Donovan Edwards, obviously now he'll be finally kind of be the featured back. What do you think the ceiling is for him this season? I've heard the word Heisman maybe thrown out there. Is that realistic that he might be a finalist for that, or is that?
I think that's honestly, I think if they can open up, the guy's a horse, right? The guy's a good running back. But is he ready to take 30 snaps? One, because you know what I'm saying? And two, what is Michigan's offense going to do to help him? And like what I just talked about receiving, because what passing opens up the run. So it's gonna, I mean, we can't totally count on him. Or the teams are just gonna stick 8 guys in the box. And it's gonna be a hard season for him. So Heisman Trophy, I think that's a little far-fetched. Doak Walker, maybe.
Okay.
But if you're talking Doak Walker, you gotta be in the same breath as Heisman. But I really think it depends on how well they throw.
Okay.
And how far he will go.
Right.
Because I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys think he can take 30 handoffs a game and be the grinder pounder? Take the workload like that?
I really don't. I think he can handle 20, low 20s maybe, but to get up into that 30 range, I mean, hardly any running backs get those kind of carries nowadays anyway. It's rare to see a running back get 30 carries.
Right.
Because obviously offenses pass a lot more now, and your backfield usually has kind of a two-headed monster. But if he is going to be in the conversation as a Heisman, he's going to have to get probably 20 to 22, 23 carries a game in order to be able to gain enough yards to be in that conversation.
Correct. Who's going to be his who's going to be number 2? I mean, I want to know how good that Marshall kid, that running back, that freshman kid, and the other kid from Corona, Cabana, Cole Cabana.
What no, but do you think he has to get just 20 touches or 20 carries?
I think 20 touches, 25 touches, 20 carries, and I mean by five other touches is he's got hands out of the backfield.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think he needs at least 25 touches.
Sammy, you've been a fan for a long time. You're well known in the West Michigan area as a huge Michigan fan.
Regional.
I love Michigan football. I love Michigan basketball. I love Michigan. I know Big Mo's a big fan too, but there is nobody that I know, at least from the football side, that is as big a fan of Michigan football as you. How did you become a Michigan fan, and how long ago? Do you remember how old you were, or how when that all started?
It really started in probably about 88 or 89 when I started like getting interested in sports. I knew my sister had graduated from U of M, and I believe it was the 89 Rose Bowl I watched, and I just started following them. I grew up in, I didn't grow up with a lot. We only had 3 channels. And Michigan football was on pretty much every Saturday, so I got to watch a lot of it. Um, and that's pretty much the start of it. It's probably like A, my sister graduating from it, B, gaining some interest in just sports, and then C, Michigan football being on all the time. And that's the pretty much the root of my
Through
passion for Michigan football.
they threw those. So obviously, 88. For some of us old guys, that's getting harder and harder to count.
Right.
Gosh, what is that now? So 88 would have been 30,
Well, 35 years ago.
35 years ago. Whew.
Right.
Wowza.
Oh,
Right.
Name one or two of your like most memorable Michigan football moments.
Um,
And it could, obviously, this could just be
I'm gonna,
personal. It could be,
I'm gonna do this in like a 2 parts. I'm gonna do a couple games
okay.
that were losses that I remember.
oh,
The Cordell Stewart thing I can vividly remember.
Oh,
I was at that
heartbreaking.
game.
I can
Heartbreaking.
vividly remember that game only because it was a night of Finville's homecoming. I was all dressed up. I thought it was in a wrap. My mom asked me to move something in the kitchen. Last play of the game, I go in to help her, and I can vividly remember hearing Keith Jackson's voice. And I thought in my head at 14, 15 years old, I'm like, oh shit. To be honest with you, I'm sorry to try to keep it PG, but I was like, oh my God. And I went and seen the replay, and I'm like, did this really happen? Did I really? Yeah, this happened. So that game was a loss, was a memorable one. The second game that was a loss that was a memorable one was the 2005 Rose Bowl when we played Texas. Um, I feel like there were stars everywhere on that field. We had one job, and they had a two-headed monster. They had Cedric Benson, they had Vince Young, and we had chose to stop Cedric Benson from the game plan, from what I remember. And I thought we had enough to slow down Vince Young, and we didn't. The guy just ran, and he's still probably running. And it was a young Michigan team, freshman quarterback, Mike Hart and Chad Henne were both freshmen. Braylon Edwards was a man among boys and receivers in that game. Steve Bruston came out that game. That game for me will always be like the best game I ever watched Michigan, even though we lost. It was a great game. Couple games that come off my head that were wins were the 05 Penn State game where it was Henne to Manningham in the back of the end zone last second. I was at that game, opposite end zone, all the way up. Travis Kazi's tickets, he had it in the last row opposite end zone, so I could kind of watch that play develop. Phil Brabs kicking a game-winning field goal in 02 against Washington. I was at that game, same scenario, opposite end zone. I actually watched him split the uprights, time running out. I think Rick Neuheisel was a coach at Washington that year.
Yep.
Game day was at that game. But probably the most memorable one that I can say is probably like top game for me was Lloyd Carr's last game.
oh.
That year was a crazy year. We lost to App State. We lose to Ohio State. Lloyd Carr announces his retirement. Gets leaked out by Kurt Herbstreit. Remember? Les Miles is going to be the coach of Michigan.
Yeah.
Leaked out at that game. Les Miles turns down Michigan because he was in the championship game with LSU and he didn't want that to be a distraction. But the way we ended that game, Florida was the reigning national championship. We saw Michigan's talent flex that game.
Yeah, we did.
Mike Hart, we didn't back down from the SEC. We gave it to we hung slug. It was a slug match, but we ended up, I think, pulling away. But I really felt like that game was a year the team that I was waited for all year to watch.
Yeah.
Because we had talent everywhere. Adrian Arrington, we had Mike Hart, we had Chad Henne. I'm trying to think who the other guys. Defensively, we were loaded. I think Burgess was on that team. Who else? Can you guys name some players on that 08 team? I'm trying to think off my head.
Hey, we don't have the nickname "Go Blue" in our
right. I'm struggling right now. I'm struggling.
Certainly certainly Chad Henne and Mike Hart, which was part of the reason I think were they preseason ranked as high as number 2?
Yeah.
And
We
Ohio
lost to App State that game. We
Yeah.
lost the opening game. Week later, we have Dennis Dixon and Oregon coming to town.
Yeah.
Okay. Or 2 weeks later, Ryan Mallett ended up playing that game. Like, I think he started that game. Chad Henne got hurt. So yeah, we were coming off that 07 Rose Bowl off, lost to USC. We had everybody coming back. There was no reason why we shouldn't have been you know, at the end of that year being in the national championship game or
Jason
being in the
Avant,
top game.
Jason Avant, Steve
Jason Bond was on that team.
Oh, yeah.
They had some great talent. Chris Graham, the Brick. They had Sean Crable. They had a great recruiting class. Who I think was their senior year. That was their last game. From like the 04 recruiting class. If I remember right. But to send Lloyd Carr out like that, which I think, Lloyd Carr is, like, to me, one of the best college coaches ever. I think he cares about his players. I think he, I think he epitomizes what Michigan man is. But to send him out with a victory, I can picture in my head just the players holding him up after that game. I think that's the most memorable games, LC's final game.
Yeah, I think the hype that year, I think, like I said, Michigan, I think was preseason number 2. Ohio State might have been number 1. Either way, they were both top 5. And the talk was Michigan had the best offense in the country. Ohio State had the best defense in the country. And they're probably going to be, undefeated going into the big game at the end of the season. And then, game 1.
It was done after game 1, and it's just, it's sad because that team was so talented.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Lamar Woodley.
Lamar Woodley, they had everybody, dude.
Alan Branch.
They were good. They were good. Actually, yeah, that was a very disappointing year because there's so much promise.
The hype was there, man. The
hype was there.
Well, Sammy, I appreciate you putting such a positive spin on that Florida game because obviously it was a positive. It was a huge win. It was Lloyd Carr's last game. But all I can remember from that game is the interview they did with Richard
Rodriguez.
He was at the game on the sideline. He
was on the sideline.
Oh.
And you know what?
At the time, we were like, "Oh, sweet," And
right. At the time, he was the hottest name out there.
Yep.
He turned down Alabama the year before. His offenses were great.
Yeah,
that's all I can say. His offenses were great. I wish Michigan would have invested a little more into a top-notch defensive coordinator from. But I don't think he felt there was a mismatch in culture from the get-go.
Nope.
So I don't think it was ever going to work out.
No, probably not. Probably not.
Well, Sammy, I was actually at the big house for that Colorado game you mentioned. And what an atmosphere that was. It went from loud, everyone's happy, yelling, screaming, excited, last play of the game, we're about to win, to dead silence. 110,000 people, dead silence, except for this small little section of maybe 1,000 Colorado fans that were going crazy.
Hey, man.
It was so surreal.
I had a dance that night, and I didn't go to that dance very happy. I was like, really? You know what I'm saying?
But speaking of the big house, it's an incredible place, one of the best places on the face of the earth. Obviously, you've been there several times. Can you just give us some of your thoughts on the cathedral that is the big house in Ann Arbor, Michigan?
Okay, so I've been to the Rose Bowl, I've been to Penn State, those are the 2 biggest stadiums I've been to.
Yeah.
I've been to Notre Dame. Michigan Stadium's iconic. I mean, let's just get that out. It's iconic. Is it the loudest? No, it's not the loudest. Do you feel tradition when you walk in? Yes. our night games, what we got the best we have Michigan can do. Yes. I mean, I feel like our night games atmosphere can compete with SEC.
Yeah.
Noon games, unless it's a big game, you know how they are sometimes. Just
Yeah.
super hot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But you just feel tradition. That's all I can say. Because when you walk in that place, you feel it.
Yep.
But like I said, it's not the loudest. If you're looking for loud, unless it's a night game or a top 10 game, you're not gonna get the loud. But you do get the tradition.
Sure.
The band, the student section,
Unmatched.
the fight song.
Unmatched.
You get there's not a better place in the house to watch a game. And you will get college football tradition. Period.
Yeah. All right. Well, Sammy Go Blue, we really appreciate your time. We really appreciate you spending time with us today. It would be great to get you back talking Michigan football here and there throughout the season.
Yeah, I'll have my agent reach out to you guys. Maybe you can work out something. I know Club Shay Shay's been asking, calling. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but with that said, though, if this is our parting goodbye here, I'd like to give a shout out to Dr. DeVecchio, my dentist. My teeth look great. My orthodontist, Dr. George. I think you're retired now. U of M alum. Teeth look great. All right.
I love it, Sammy. Speaking of, we will be in touch with their agent right now. The company, the Attack the Rack company here, we're pretty young, don't have a lot of funds, but we're always looking for sponsors. That'd be a great way, to
I do pro bono work.
All right. Well, hey, the way one segment that Big Mo and I do every week on the podcast is our favorite three. It could be favorite three of anything we can come up with. Obviously, today we're talking Michigan football. We'll do. We'd love to have you join us for the segment before we get out of here. We'll go favorite three Michigan football players of all time. We'll go one at a time. There probably will be some repeats. That's okay. But we'll go, Sammy, you'll go first, and then Big Mo, and then myself. We'll go around the horn 3 times. So we all get our favorite 3 Michigan Wolverines. Sammy, let's start with you.
I'm gonna go with Tony Bowles. I don't know if you guys know him, but he was a late 90s or late 80s running back that ran like a deer.
Okay.
That's all I can say. He was fast, and he could.
All right.
All right. I'm going to go next, Kurt, just so I can steal. And I think I've mentioned this before. One of my favorite U of M football players all time, definitely, easily, Mr. Woodson.
Yeah. Unreal.
Iconic, probably one of the top players to ever play his position. So, Charles Woodson.
Well, Sammy, I was a little bit later to joining the Michigan fandom than you were. You said 88. I was more like probably 90. And one of the first players I watched every single week at least was Desmond Howard. So I got to go Desmond Howard. He's probably on your guys' list too, maybe, I don't know. But Desmond Howard, my favorite Michigan football player of all time. That moment when he did the Heisman pose, I still think in the history of sports is one of the most incredible, iconic moments we've ever seen. So I'll go Desmond Howard with my first one.
I am gonna go. So it's me, right? I'm 2.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with the guy from Cedar Rapids, Ohio, or Iowa, and I mentioned him before, but I always liked his length, and I always liked. He reminded me of Plexico Blurs, 6'6", skinny, big hands. Adrian Harrington.
Okay.
He's from Cedar Rapids. I really enjoyed watching him back in the day.
All right.
Nice one. I'm going to go just obviously had a great career at Michigan, but probably one of the better names in Michigan, football is Tim Biaka Batuka.
Namunga. Yeah. He was awesome. He was
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
Hey,
no,
285 yards against Michigan or against Ohio State.
Yeah.
Oh, busting NFL, but got him in the lottery.
yeah.
all I can say.
He got paid.
You got
You got
paid.
paid.
Nothing wrong with that.
My second one, I'm also a running back. Played a little bit before to Tim Biakabatuka, and that is Tyrone Wheatley.
Oh, I was gonna say
His
him.
unreal running back in college. Also, kind of like Biakabatuka, didn't really pan out too well in the NFL, but as a college player, one of my favorites, definitely of several phenomenal running backs Michigan football has had. For me, Tyrone Wheatley takes the cake.
Big, fast, track star.
Yeah, he was a track star too.
1991, Houston came into town. I had tickets for that game. First play of the game, he ran it back 99 yards off the kick.
Wow.
Tyrone Wheatley did.
Yeah.
So, what you got, buddy? What you got, Coach K?
How's that?
Oh,
Who's
it's
up?
back to you, Sammy.
Oh yeah, back to
Oh,
you.
it's back to me?
Yeah. Don't be trying to call me out.
I'm sorry. Hey, I'm gonna go.
Whose show is this? Whose podcast is this?
Right. I'm gonna go with and then Coach already said it, the pride of Fremont, Ohio, Charles Woodson. He changed the position. What he did his junior year at Michigan, winning the Heisman, being an offensive presence. Who can ever forget? And I just still remember that Penn State game. Where it was, I believe it was a top 5 game in Happy Valley, and that 98 team or 97-98 team laid the hammer down. And I just remember Charles Woodson catching that touchdown pass, looking back, running in the end zone. He was a player of the time.
Yep.
That's all I can say. He changed games.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
Hey, I might need a little help with this one, because I was trying to think back. I grew up a Michigan football fan. Steve Morrison.
Steve Morrison, center.
Linebacker.
He was a center.
Center.
No, you're right. Steve Morrison was a linebacker.
Was
number 36.
Right. Okay.
He played. Yeah.
I'm throwing it back because I don't think he wasn't like he ended up in the NFL a little bit, but nothing extraordinary.
Yeah, he was number 36. I think he might be on the cover when Cordell, who caught Westbrook catching that pass. I think he might be the back of his jersey.
Okay.
I know you see Ty Law. I think he was trailing him.
Yeah. Ooh, Ty Law's a good one, man.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. Jeez. No, but so Steve Morrison, I think, like I said, linebacker. Again, one of the reasons I probably played linebacker positionally wise was he was just that big, strong backer. Probably not a great cover guy, so he probably shouldn't have been downfield covering Cordell or who caught the pass. But
Westbrook.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw out Steve Morrison, one of my, just because I grew up watching him, and that kind of pushed me into playing some linebacker through my high school career.
Nice.
All right. And then I'll wrap it up here. My third, it was tough because I've liked several of the wide receivers Michigan has had, but I think my favorite one, Amani Toomer.
Monty Toomer.
So he was
he's a California kid. I think he went to Concord de La Salle.
Okay.
For real.
And then had a okay NFL career.
He had longevity. That means he had to check every week.
Yeah, he did.
He had a check.
Yep.
For about 10 years.
Yep. So that'll wrap up my third and final choice, Amani Toomer.
Nice.
Money.
Sammy, another thing, and we'll get you out of here. But when you mentioned number 36, that you knew his jersey number, I remember taking this back and wrapping this all up, tying it with a bow. We talked some Fenville basketball. We talked a lot of Michigan football. I remember on a bus ride home from a game, me and Big Mo were thinking of every single Michigan football player we could think of. And you knew every single player's number.
You know what? I do. I did. I still do. But I'm feeling my age. I'm feeling my age. You know, we're pushing 50, guys. We're no spring
No.
chickens no
Ouch,
more. So,
ouch.
well, okay. I'm sorry. Bad word. Bad word. But yeah, there was a time where I was like an encyclopedia. Like I
Yeah.
kept up in the recruiting and everything.
Yeah.
But now at 45 years old, recruiting type, and I can't invest into somebody that may be there a year, may not be there a year, gets mad and wants to hit the portal. I'm
No.
not, I don't get into recruiting that like I did just
Sure.
because of that.
Well, hey, next time we get you out, it'd be great to pick your brain a little bit about your thoughts on NIL and on the portal, but we'll save that.
Yeah, definitely keep me in. I'd like to, like I said, I'll get a hold of my agent, we'll have him get a hold of you, and then we'll try to, negotiate a weekly or something.
Yeah, no, we'll have
Or
our
monthly.
we'll have our sales team reach out to your agent, and we'll
Right. I
get it
appreciate
worked.
that, guys. Before we go, keep this in here. Don't cut this out. I know you're the editor, dude. Bubba's Bounce House, service in West Michigan, Lakeshore area, Holland, Saugatuck, South Haven. All rerun is fun. Go blue.
All right, go blue. Thanks.
Go blue.
guys.
Go blue.
Cheers.